meeting, and this is on February 25th, 2021. As chair of the Board of Public Works, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're utilizing Zoom through the city's IT department for this electronic meeting. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-436-2866. The meeting ID is 982-5789-7234. And the password is 337208. The public may also view the Comcast channel 16. Second, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashua.nh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and at the Department of Public Works Administration Building at 9 Riverside Drive. Third, by providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting via the phone or by channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the phone number mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state why you are physically not present for the meeting and state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Diane, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
I'm here. I'm not present because of the pandemic and I am alone in the room.
Commissioner Tease?
Present. Meeting off site due to social distancing in the pandemic. I'm in my home and I'm alone.
Commissioner Pappas?
I'm here. I'm social distancing due to the pandemic, and I'm in a room in my home by myself.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, I am present here in my office by myself, attending remotely due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Commissioner Shoneman?
I'm here and I'm attending remotely due to the governor's emergency order. And I'm alone in this room in my house.
All right, so all members are present. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Now, I think Director Photo, though, had a couple of deletions that she
Yes.
wanted to make.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We'd like to pull a couple of the motions under engineering. Motion B, because the Director of Community Development is on vacation, and motion C, as Liberty Utilities could not attend this evening. So if we could pull both of those motions, and we will put them back on the agenda in March.
So Commissioner Moriarty, is your motion amended to exclude items B and C under engineering?
That is correct, Mayor. That is my motion.
All right. Any comments, questions? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
yes,
Motion passes. Next, we have item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Commissioner Tease.
Okay, excuse me, just one second. Let me go to I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of January 28, 2021.
Discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
yes,
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have a public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the board? All right, we have a presentation regarding the bike ped study from Julie Chismas. I see Ms. Chismas here on the line or on the meeting.
Yes,
So Julie, could you please go ahead?
sure. Thank you very much. Would it be okay if I shared my screen at this time?
Yes, of course.
You. All right. And I'm hopeful that you are seeing the presentation and I can see it. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your agenda this evening. I very much appreciate your time. So I will be quick with it. In August 2019, the Board of Public Works unanimously approved the use of sidewalk quadrant funds for NRPC, the National Regional Planning Commission, to complete a pedestrian and bicycle transportation study for the total sum of $14,500. So I'm just here this evening to give a brief presentation on the findings of that study. So through this study, the NRPC examined the city's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to its bicycle and pedestrian amenities. So it did a basic SWOT analysis. For strengths, we do have an extensive sidewalk network and some really nice walkable and bikeable areas. And we also have city leadership that has consistently supported bicycle and pedestrian projects and allowed us to enter into grants with matching funds that the city's been provided. But unfortunately, while we do have a great extensive network in great areas, we do have a lack of connectivity between some of our bike ped friendly destinations. We also have a lot of sidewalks that are aging and no longer meet ADA standards. They were built fine many years ago, but the rules have changed. Now we need more width and less barriers, less pitch. We also, NRPC also identified not having a citywide bike ped master plan as a weakness, as we don't really have a good guidance document to really help us, implement these changes in an effective and efficient way. They also identified several opportunities, one of which is the Imagine Nashua Master Plan update. In the last master plan, which was adopted in 2000, encouraging and promoting sidewalks, trails, and bike lanes was a high priority. And mobility and access continue to be high priorities in the Imagine Nashua plan. And this really helps when applying for grants, as we can pull pages from these plans and show that the city has support for bike ped projects. There's also opportunities in the form of new development. We get sidewalk contributions that can help us expand the system. And we have, paving projects that provide opportunities to restripe lanes so that we have narrower travel lanes and wider, more usable shoulders for bicyclists and pedestrians. We also have some threats, including increasing vehicular traffic. While the volumes did drop due to the COVID, pandemic, we typically do see low increases in vehicle traffic over time, and that has happened over the last 20 years. And accommodating that increasing vehicular traffic with our limited right-of-way can sometimes be a challenge. We need to maintain capacity for our motorized vehicles, and that kind of limits what we can do for the non-motorized travelers in the limited right-of-way. As we're all aware, as I look out my window and still see snow, New England weather can be pretty brutal on infrastructure. It wears faster. We don't get the life out of our out of our pavements like other climates do. And we have requirements to plow the sidewalks, and that can really be a challenge, as you are all well aware. And finally, COVID-19 was identified as a threat. It's been really financially tough on communities, and funds for projects, including bike ped projects, is very limited. There's a lot of competition for very limited funds. Another component to this study was GIS inventory and hotspot mapping. And what NRPC did is use their GIS, their Geographic Information System, and technology to identify locations where there's high demand and a need for improvement. Some of the things that went into this hotspot analysis, they call it a co-occurrence analysis. So they looked at where there was where there's bike lanes or no bike lanes, where there's high vehicle traffic, where there's sidewalks or not, where neighborhoods with a high percentage of households without access to a vehicle, where there are a lot of kids, where we have high transit rates, ridership at stops. They put all this together and can come up with kind of a hotspot map showing where we really could get a lot of bang for our buck when improving our bike and ped infrastructure. They also conducted a pilot study and collected data on about 17 linear miles of sidewalks, curb ramps, ped signals, and crosswalks. They used, again, GIS technology, mobile technology, to go out in the field and collect data on all of our sidewalks, like I said, sidewalks, crosswalks, curb ramps, and pedestrian signals. On some, I think sidewalks, they looked at 15 different elements, different, whether there are barriers, what the slope was, what the width was, whether they were in poor condition. I think there are up to 20 different elements that they collected data on for the PED signal. So they really did a really intensive look at our bike ped, our pedestrian infrastructure in the areas shown on the map, and then kind of came up with a relative good, fair, poor assessment of those sidewalks. This pilot study will really help us estimate the level of effort it's going to take and the time it will take to do a citywide sidewalk inventory that we would need to do to support an ADA transition plan. Part of the analysis that goes into, once they collect all this data, it goes into a spreadsheet, and that can help us prioritize where we have the worst conditions combined with the highest need. So that will really be a useful tool. They also collected quite a bit of public input. They released a survey online, and we had 300 respondents complete it between March and June 2020. Again, this was during the pandemic, so our traditional ways of going out and getting public information or public input rather, had to be modified to work in COVID times. But we were able to get, like I said, over 300 different people responding to this survey, which included a map element where people could drop a pin and say something, either it's something good or something poor, like biking downtown is difficult, or, highlighting the fact that the Heritage Rail Trail is just a great resource. We also held a public outreach webinar in September of 2020 after the bulk of the analysis had been done, to share some of the results with about 30 participants. And this was interactive, and we had polls and allowed, hand raising and questions, and really had a good turnout. Some key takeaways from the public input efforts. Overall, we got kind of a below average biking and walking score for the accommodations that we have. And then again, this was kind of a slider that people could say, how good they thought our accommodations were. Identified specific areas of concern, including the Main Street downtown area. While it's great for pedestrians, it can be challenging for bicycles. And Street can be challenging for bicycles and pedestrians both, as can DW Highway South. And the North End also identified as particularly problematic. And again, these are areas, like in the North End, where we have some really prime area for walking and biking, but it can be difficult to get there if you don't drive there to begin with. General deterrents to biking were just a simple lack of bike lanes. We're adding them, but there's still a lot of areas that we could use them in. Traffic stress, which is, the speed of vehicles and the traffic volume can cause stress for bicyclists. And then also we have several difficult intersections to cross, especially when you're on a bike. Similar to biking, with walking, we had a lack of sidewalks in this case, being a deterrent to walking. Again, the traffic stress, meaning that there's just a lot of vehicles and they're moving fast. and then the time and distance that it takes to walk. And finally, a near unanimous agreement that connectivity between our trails should really be a top city focus. When looking at our bike ped improvements, we had a lot of calls to connect like Mine Falls with the Nashua River Rail Trail down West Hollis Street. You know, projects like that could really make a pretty impressive connected network. The study included a list of recommendations and, you know, kind of looking at strategies and different reasons for them, the complexity, things that are, you know, high complexity, like constructing major bike ped infrastructure, constructing that connecting multi-use path between Mine Falls and the Nashua River Rail Trail would be a pretty major investment, but it would, you know, really connect the system and give us just miles from like Air Mass over to almost to the Merrimack River. Through the Heritage Rail Trail, we could really make a pretty impressive connection. Additionally, we could do some neighborhood level planning and help create a sense of place, and also let drivers know that they're entering an area where there are a lot of non-motorized slow streets or something that really came to light and got a lot of visibility during COVID, as a lot of communities were trying to make more recreational space for people to get out and enjoy since they couldn't be inside. Addressing our intersection safety concerns, you know, we could do some creative crosswalks in certain areas where it's allowed, improving our pedestrian signalization, just making more higher visibility crosswalks. We've done some of that on Main Street and it's been great, but I think there are some areas that we could still do some improvements. Closing the critical gaps between significant connections along sidewalks. You know, we have some places where we have sidewalks built, but they don't, or bike lanes also, but they don't necessarily connect to anything. So it's great to have that section, but making them connected and closing these critical gaps would really extend the area that people could walk or bike comfortably. And then finally, just improving the roadside information resources. One thing that we heard a lot of in the public input session was better wayfinding, you know, having signage along, say, in Mine Falls that says, you know, go this way to, you know, so many miles to the library, or just having people better signage to alert pedestrians and bicyclists to the different connections that are available, and providing some, you know, creative paint or some ways again to kind of help navigate to nearby destinations. And so I just kind of want to wrap up by thanking the steering committee that helped guide this study, which included members from Public Works, Community Development, Assessing. Pam and GIS helped us with getting some of the data to NRPC. And then also our NTS staff helped us get out the message and get better input. And also the Nashua Regional Planning Commission was just great at pulling together this study during COVID and getting out and getting all the inventory done during very difficult times. They were trying to collect sidewalk inventories on really high their iPads that they were collecting the data on. So I really appreciate all the efforts that they put into this. I do want to give you some contact information. I'm Julie Chismas. I'm the Transportation and Long Range Planner in Community Development. And then Ryan Friedman, who did a lot of the analysis and the GIS work on this from NRPC. We do have a project website, and you can find the full study and also a pretty nice poster that NRPC put together showing, you know, some of the results of the public input and areas where we can make some of these improvements. And so with that, again, I don't want to take too much of your time. I would welcome any questions anyone has.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Pappas.
if nobody else has, I just a couple of questions. First, I don't recall when you started this study, but do you have a sense? I know that we last year, and I know this year, that we're gonna put some Jersey barriers up downtown. Would that suspend the bike lanes? It just would seem to me that would make that a little bit less safe.
I would have to defer to engineering on this. You know, I know that we did hear from the public that it was particularly difficult to get down Main Street on bikes with the barriers. You know, unfortunately, historically, Pre-COVID, I did see a fair number of bicycles using our sidewalks on Main Street, which is not allowed. So
Right.
to the extent that we can make accommodations for bikes, that would be great, but I would definitely have to defer to engineering on that to determine whether or not there's sufficient width to provide safe accommodations for the bicyclists and also provide the needed capacity for the vehicles.
Okay. And if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, I have a few questions. So, are there, and kind of pun intended, rules to the road as to when you have a bike trailer on? This is well pre-COVID, and I remember someone was going up Main Street with a bike trailer on with a child in back, and it was I remember people complaining that it really caused some sort of an issue. When we have regular bike lanes, is there going to be room for someone to bring like a child trailer on the back of that bike or not?
Typically bike lanes are, maybe a minimum of 4 feet, and they can go up to, if it's a multi-use, it can be 10 feet, but we often see 5 feet. And that typically is wide enough for they have like carts that you can attach, and there's a certain word, and it escapes me now, but you can actually attach like a wagon to the back of your bike. I've seen folks do it. Actually, James Vayo, who used to work for the city, was a big fan of those and would do his grocery shopping on bike and put his groceries in the cart that was attached to his bike. But that's a great question. And I think, obviously the trailers can come in different widths. I like to think that manufacturers try to construct them so that they work within standard bike lane widths. I can't guarantee that, but that's what I would hope.
So trucking up Main Street, if you're trucking up Main Street and there are cars parked on the side,
Yes.
would that seem like that would be a good place to have a bike trailer, like a pretty wide one that can hold a couple of kids?
I would have to look at what the lane is. I mean, right now, bicyclists are allowed to take a lane. They are allowed to share the travel lane. So in that case, I think I'm not sure what the width are of our lanes on Main Street, but current travel lanes certainly provide ample space for them. If there were a 5-foot bike lane or a 4-foot bike lane on Main Street, we'd still have to be careful if it's along parking to prevent dooring. Dooring is a problem for bicyclists when people open their car door and a bicyclist is in a lane adjacent. So you often will have a slight buffer. So it's all in how it's designed. And again, I hate to keep saying I defer to the engineers, but I'm not an engineer. And they know a lot more about what is feasible with lane widths, but having 10 or 10.5 foot lane widths with bike lanes is not uncommon in downtown areas.
Right. But I think in our downtown, my recollection is that we have parking, and then if we have a bike lane painted, it's not that wide of one, if I recall.
Yeah, well, the lanes beside the parking now on Main Street are not bike lanes. Those are to prevent dooring. That is not a bike lane. That's just to prevent doors from getting clipped from cars going by, moving cars. So that is narrow. That is not a standard bike lane. Okay.
And then my last question, I noticed with the transit, which I thought was great, that we have buses that do city routes for folks, and they do have bike racks.
Yes.
So when you reached out when you guys reached out for the study, did you try to reach out to maybe more impoverished areas that they may not have, they may only have access to public transit? Did you reach out for public transit at all when you did this?
Yes. Yep. Public transit actually helped us promote the surveys and the meetings. They were really important, and reaching their ridership was really important for us. So that was a group that we really wanted to get the input on, because a lot of them don't have vehicles and do rely on non-motorized methods of transportation. So yes, the transit system did help us publicize. Again, if this weren't during COVID, we'd have gone to the neighborhoods and done a lot more
Right.
input in person, and it just wasn't an option.
Right. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? All right, well, thank you, Julie, for coming in.
And thank you very much for your time and attention this evening.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is Park Rec. We have an informational item regarding Stellos. Is Mr. Pupolo going to address that?
Actually, Mayor, this concession agreement was put out to bid prior to Superintendent Popolo joining us, so I'll speak to that this evening.
Okay.
So we put out the concession at Stellos out to bid, and we did not receive any bids, unfortunately. We reached out to the bidders who had attended the pre-bid meeting, and many of them said that either the project wasn't big enough for them or for COVID reasons, they didn't bid. Dudley's Concessions has been our vendor for a number of years now, I think probably 6 or 10. And they said that it was a 3-year agreement that we had asked for. They said they would be interested in a 2-year agreement. So we decided to ask them for a bid for a 2-year agreement. They submitted it. This does not go, it's not a large enough amount to go to the board, but it will be a multi-year contract. So it will be going to the Board of Aldermen. So Dudley's has done a great job. We're happy to have them for a couple of more years at Stellos. And I just wanted to inform the board of that. Yeah, and then of course, in 2 years, we'll put it back out to bid once COVID is behind us, and hopefully we'll get some additional bids.
Anyone wish to question, respond in any way? All right, we'll go on to item 7, Solid Waste Department. The first item, Commissioner Shoneman.
Move to approve change order number 1 to the engineering services contract for the City of Nashua's active enclosed landfills with Sanborn Head and Associates of Concord, New Hampshire, in the amount of $31,000. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, Account Classification 53, Professional and Technical Services.
Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is a change order to our general engineering services that I request for every year with the board. This year, DES did a lot of changes to our permits, and a lot of our reports had to be updated. So this is the result in having Sanborn Head work on all this. There's I think it was 7 or 8 scope items that they had to work on. And again, this is just a general engineering change order.
Anyone, any commissioner? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have item B, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve a contract with SCS Field Services of Reston, Virginia to construct an expansion of the landfill gas collection system in the amount of $407,860. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund, Bond, Activity, Landfill Gas Expansion.
Mr. LaFleur.
Yes, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is our gas expansion that we do pretty much yearly. We try to do some kind of gas expansion. This one is specifically going to be along the concrete block wall. There's actually 2 walls in the landfill that are set back. We've been having some issues with emissions through there. We've been doing a lot of testing, and we get a lot of hits along the wall. This is going to try to alleviate all these emission problems that we have. And when we report to the state, they make us do some kind of repairs. We're doing one great big repair, and hopefully we can resolve all of our gas emissions along the wall.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Tease.
thank you. Superintendent LaFleur, can you expand and tell us a little bit more about which wall system this is? Is this the most recent phase, the wall that was constructed? Was it an existing wall?
Yes, sir. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is the wall, the 500-foot setback. It's about 1,000 feet long within the phase 1, 2, and 3 landfill. And as we have to do emission scans yearly on the wall, on the landfills, this is a big area that we're getting hits along. It seems like the gases are hitting our wall that was designed and just flowing right up along the wall and coming out into the atmosphere. So yes, this is a 1,000 foot on one side. I think it's a 1,300 total square linear feet. So it's 1,000 feet on one side and 300 feet on the Pioneer Musket side. There's a small wall there, so there's about 300 feet of wall there.
If I may,
Please.
Mr. Mayor, so in other words, I'm wondering if any of the current construction to the current phase is disrupting, is causing a disruption, potentially causing this problem, or is it just kind of a fluke thing?
No, sir. Actually, the new phase 3 landfill has no wall in it. We designed it so we wouldn't have to have any issues along a wall. And this is this isn't just a fluke. It's been happening yearly. I mean, right along where the wall is. It's just the nature of the beast. It's giving an outlet for the gas to follow, and of course, gas will follow and hit the least resistance, and that's where it's been going. We've been trying to do repairs. We've been putting cover along it, trying to alleviate this problem, and it's just not working. So as one big project of gas expansion, we decided to try this with our engineer support to do it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? All right, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We next have item C, Commissioner Tease.
Sure. I move to approve a contract with Sandboard Head and Associates, CQA, and engineering support services in the amount of $27,800. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Bond, Landfill Gas Expansion.
Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. This is a motion to do just what it says, CQA engineering support for this gas expansion that we do. It's such a big expansion. It's going to take about 5 weeks worth of work to do. And Sanborn Head will be on site. They take care of all of our meetings with DES. They do all of our plans. They make sure that everything's done correctly by the contractor. And they're there to observe everything and put their stamps on it. They take photographs. They do. They'll approve everything for this project.
All right, commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Engineering Department is next. Item A, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permits and fees as submitted.
Mr. Hudson is here, I believe.
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. The list is provided. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them, but otherwise I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay, commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. We now on to item D. Commissioner Tease.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we're on item B.
Well, before you came,
Oh, those both get tabled. I'm sorry.
yes,
No, I was here. Sorry, my apologies.
no problem.
I move to approve the award of the construction contract for the 2021 CIPP lining program to Green Mountain Pipeline Services LLC of Bethel, Vermont, in the amount of $1,990,745.39, pending bond approval. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund bond activity sewer rehab.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. This is the CIPP lining program, which we've talked about many times, but this is the program whereby we both look in the pipes, the sewer pipes, and then line the ones that need lining, hopefully prior to any major issues. So this is for the 2021 program. We put this out to bid, received 5 bids, and Green Mountain Pipeline Services was the low bidder. Under this project, we anticipate doing about 80,000 feet of sewer pipe. That's CCTVing that much. And then lining probably about 32,000 feet of pipe. So another a good program we hope to address these pipes under.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Commissioner Pappas?
if we can just remind folks who may not be familiar with this project, how much money it saves to go ahead and line the pipes as opposed to either having something fail or else having to dig up and replace it. Probably compare the savings we get on pipe replacement rather.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. So to replace a pipe is about 20 times more expensive than lining it. So not to mention the fact that, you know, if you have to dig a 20-foot deep hole in the middle of the street, that's very disruptive. So so this lining program, catching the pipes before they deteriorate, need that level of improvement, is very, very good value for the city. And it's something that we think we should continue with.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item E, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the engineering services contract for assistance with the sewer rehabilitation program with Hayner Swanson Incorporated of Nashua, New Hampshire. The amount not to exceed $249,494, pending bond approval. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund bond activity sewer infrastructure improvements.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a contract with Hayner Swanson, local company. They've served us well doing this work in the past. This is for the stuff that we do have to dig up and replace. Hayner Swanson's instrumental in helping us with that. They do the designs and then all the way through watching it through construction for us. So this is an important piece of our sewer program. And we'd like to continue with them. There's a lot of coordination that needs to happen, day to day in the field, and coordinating with our staff, coordinating with the paving program. And Hayner Swanson's been excellent in that regard, and that's why we're seeking to extend the contract this year as in previous years.
Commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have item F, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the engineering services contract for design of sewer siphons rehabilitation with Hazen and Sawyer, PC of Manchester, Mass, in the amount of $194,533. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, fund bond, activity, sewer infrastructure improvements.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this work on our sewer siphons was identified as part of our capacity management operation and maintenance program. This is a contract with Hazen who helped us with that program. They've identified a number of problems with the sewer siphons that we have. Sewer siphons are pipes that sweep down and under our rivers. We have 8 locations where we have that, and over 22 different barrels, as you would say, ranging in size from 6 inches to 60 inches. Under this CMOM program, we cleaned and video inspected all those. In a lot of cases, they're in good shape, but we did find issues that we need to address, some cracking, some erosion of cement, a few holes and some exposed rebar and things like that. So under this program, they will design the repairs to those siphons. It's a complicated thing. We got to, divert flow and that sort of thing. So certainly something that we need support, engineering support with. So that's what this proposal is. They'll design this, and then at a later date, we would put this out for bid. But this would get us to the point that we can bid out a project for construction.
All right, commissioners? Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item G, Commissioner Tease.
I move to approve the award of the construction contract for the 2021 paving program, arterial and collector roadways, to Sunshine Paving Corporation of Hudson, New Hampshire, in the amount of $4,191,007.50. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering, Fund Bond, Activity Paving, Department 161 Streets, Fund Trust, Account Classification 81 Capital Improvements, Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Bond, Activity Sewer Rehab.
Would you like me to address this, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Hudson, sorry.
Thank you, no problem. Dan, as the city engineer. So this is our annual paving program. We've broken the paving for this coming summer into 2 contracts, which are these next 2 items on the agenda here. This first contract is for our arterial and collector roadways. And we put this out to bid. We received bids from 4 contractors. Sunshine Paving of Hudson was the low bidder for the project. Under this project, we plan to pave 7.5 miles of arterial roadways in the city. Sunshine won both of our paving bids last year and did a good job. We were able to keep on schedule and that sort of thing. So we're comfortable awarding this work to them this year, if you approve.
Commissioners?
I have a quick question, please.
Yes, Commissioner Shoneman.
Am I understanding this right, that the funding is coming from 3 different sources?
Yes, so there's the paving bond, which we entered into a 5-year bonding program, and so there's funding there. There's some wastewater fund money, and that's to address rehabilitating, replacing sewer pipe structures, sewer covers on manholes, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of wastewater funding in it, and we also take some contributions from utilities and whatnot. Somebody, if we're going to be paving a street, they'll contribute towards the final restoration versus doing a duplicate effort. So that's part of it as well.
Mr. Shoneman?
Is that typical? Is that often how we've been doing this paving program?
Yes, that's how we've structured it every year so far.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could you please call the roll, Diane?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yeah.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, item H. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the award of the construction contract for the 2021 paving program, residential roadways, to Sunshine Paving Corporation of Hudson, New Hampshire, in the amount of $4,585,195. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering, Fund Bond, Activity Paving, Department 161 Streets, Fund Trust, Account Classification 81, Capital Improvements, Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Bond, Activity Sewer Rehab.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the second of the two contracts we put out this year. This is for residential roadways. We plan to pave about 15.5 miles of city streets under this program. We put this second contract out to bid after the first one. We received 5 bids. Sunshine Paving of Hudson was the low bidder on this one as well. As I said, last year they did both of the paving contracts. We did meet with them just to make sure that they have suitable capacity to do both contracts again this year, and they've indicated they have. And they were able to successfully do that last year. So again, we're comfortable awarding this to them should you choose.
Commissioners?
Yes, a question, Mayor.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yeah, Engineer Hudson, I was just wondering who will be overseeing their quality of work? Will it be your department or will we have a separate contract for that?
So it's I think it's a later item tonight actually, but HSI has helped us with that in the past, and we intend to have them help us again this year. It's a team effort. We have a few staff members which their primary duties are to be engaged in this, but that's not enough at this level. We really need outside support, and so we do contract for that support.
I'm sorry, who is it going to be with?
It's Hayner Swanson, and then we also there's some pavement testing that we do, and we'll bring that contract next month. But that's for the asphalt testing, the materials testing. But in terms of in the field, people watching the work, ensuring the work's done quality, that's intended to be Hayner Swanson again this year.
Okay, but that contract is not before us tonight.
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I should have said they do have some money remaining on their contract, so we'll be looking to amend that next month.
Any other commissioners? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item I, Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of an overhead 360-degree vehicle detection camera system from Electric Light Company for the Daniel Webster Highway / Spitbrook Road signalized intersection in the amount of $22,585. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering, Fund Trust, Account Classification 71 Equipment.
Commissioners? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Hudson?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you've seen a few of these before, but this is a vehicle detection camera. Our signal equipment on DW Highway is aging. We do have cameras at various intersections to to identify vehicles, which then trigger the appropriate signal phases. But that equipment is aging and we're having a lot of problems with it. So this is a camera system for the Spitbrook Road intersection, obviously a major intersection. We have had issues. We want to make sure this continues to operate. This funding is funding from the quarter account. So it has been contributed by others, through various projects, as developments happen and they have a traffic impact, we request contributions, and this is paid for out of those contributions.
Commissioners? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. So now we've got two informational items.
Item J, Mayor.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Item J, Commissioner Tease.
Yes, I move to approve the purchase of an overhead 360-degree vehicle detection camera system from Electric Light Company for the Daniel Webster Highway Danforth Road signalized intersection in the amount of $25,460. Funding will be through Department 160, Admin Engineering Fund Trust, Account Classification 71 Equipment.
Mr. Hudson?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the same story as the previous one. This is a camera system for that location. This one is, we're doing this one as a direct result of a grocery store, which is coming in at 292 DW Highway. They, as part of that application, we identified this issue and they're making a contribution towards it. So they're paying about 3/4 of the cost of this, with a balance coming from funding that other developments have contributed along the corridor. So, this will improve the situation we have out there at Danforth Road, and is, as I said, a direct beneficial impact from that grocery store that's coming in.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Superintendent Hudson, I just had a question. You made a comment and said that the grocery store is paying 3/4 of the price. So what we're seeing here today is 25% of the total purchase price?
Sorry, no, I confused the fact. The total cost is what you see. Through the planning board process, we asked for a contribution and they agreed to contribute, almost $19,000. So about 19,000. It's all from the same fund, but basically 19,000 of this is from them, and the balance is from balance of funds in the same fund that have been contributed previously by the other developments.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Now we have two informational items. Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what we've provided is the 2021 list of streets that we intend to pave. So there's street lists and maps for each of the two contracts, the arterial contract and the residential. So they're listed if people want to review them. I would caution, these lists change from time to time. If we have an issue, we have a utility that, an issue pops up or different things, we do sometimes have to make alterations to this list. But in looking at pavement conditions around the city, we've prioritized these segments, these roadways for improvement. In reading the list, I think a question we had last year is, what does M&O mean? I don't think we provided a key this year either, but that stands for mill and overlay. That's where we go mill off some of the existing pavement and then pave back to replace it with new pavement. Reclaim is where we grind up all the pavement with some of the sub base, and then we pave full depth pavement again. Reclaim is the more intensive effort. Yeah, you'll see the list, you'll see the maps. We'll get these compiled and posted on our website for the public's viewing. now that those paving contracts are being approved.
Any questions? Comments? All right, the next one is the street opening permit. So I think that's self-explanatory unless people have questions on that. Any commissioners have questions on that? If not, we'll move on to the administration department. We have two informational items there. The update on the facility as well as the director's report. So I will turn this over to Director Photo.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So as far as DPW facility update, the closing on Burke Street is tentatively scheduled for March 11th. I know I spoke with Director Cummings. He's pretty confident that that date will hold. They have, the buyer has put down a couple of deposits, so we're hopeful that the closing will take place, but I'll certainly keep the board updated on that. And we'll go on to the director's report, please. The first slide is a private sewer service repair on 56 to 58 and 60 West Hollis Street, which was done by Jack Crisp. The service was an existing clay pipe, and it was more than 100 years old. The next slide is regarding summer fun. We are our staff is working to try to come up with some really great ideas that will be safe during these COVID times. We have concerts that we're working on, hopefully Tuesdays and Fridays. We're also working on trying to figure out how we could do an opening day and fairy tale festival, again, COVID safe. Also, there will be a Monday Night Fitness sponsored by the Nashville YMCA that will also take place. So more to come there, but I did want to let you know that we are trying to work on a summer fun program for this year. These are some sheds that the Park and Rec Department has been building in-house, and they will be used at various fields this spring. The next slide is winter field maintenance of Stella Stadium. We've needed to plow it so that we can ensure that the field's ready for spring sports such as lacrosse. Homeless camps have become a bigger and bigger issue. And we have been involved in cleaning many of them up. And this is just one of an abandoned homeless camp that we needed to clean up. We are looking at trying to put together a task force to try to help solve some of this because it's becoming a larger and larger concern. We've been doing a lot of pothole repairs. Street crews are filling potholes in between winter weather events. We've had a very busy February, as you all know. On the left, the street crews have been plowing on Broad Street. And then in the middle, snow piles are being removed from municipal lots. And then over on the right is a sidewalk tractor clearing streets, clearing sidewalks, excuse me. The Mine Falls Advisory Committee asked us to remove a couple of trees from the canal, which we did. And this is right behind Nashua South. This is a picture of snow removal operations downtown. And we removed snow on West Hollis and Kinsley Streets. This is we had to raise some of the gas wells at Lincoln Park from some of the renovation work that we did because we were leveling the park, so we needed to raise some of the wells. Solid Waste did that. And last, we wanted to remind folks to please only put acceptable materials in their recycling containers. So far, we've had a pretty good record with our recycling. We have pretty low contamination, but we're seeing that trend up a little bit. So we're just asking folks to please be diligent. No plastic bags, no batteries, bulbs, sharps, or any tanks. No storage containers and household items. People will tend to put plastic children's toys that should not be put in the recycling. That should be put in your trash. And then, of course, building materials and miscellaneous items that are from construction should also not be put in your recycling. Just should simply be paper, plastic, metal, and glass. So any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Commissioner Pappas, please.
I do think people do stick things into recycling. You know, for example, the toys, they'd say, well, if they take plastic, why don't they take these plastic things? So the two questions / suggestions that I would have is, when's the next time we're sending out wastewater bills? Maybe if we stick those suggestions in, or do yearly we send out a list of when our recyclables are going to be picked up? I don't know if we still do that. If we do that with our wastewater bills.
No,
But-
we don't. We haven't done the schedule, Commissioner Pappas, but I believe that wastewater bills will be going out next month. So we have in the past, we have put information on recycling in the past, and we certainly could do that again.
Yeah, I don't know if that's enough time of a heads up, but you know, I can certainly understand why you wouldn't want plastic toys because you don't know what's mixed in them. But I think to put that in as a reminder, and it's not going to cost any money if you're going to mail the bills out anyway. It was just a suggestion.
Yes, it's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? All right, commissioners' comments. Do any commissioners have comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Tees.
I wanted to just recognize the team. I think they've done a nice job of uniformity here and having backgrounds that show their department and division very well. So I just thought that was a nice touch. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any commissioners?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Pappas.
I have two items. One of them I brought up last month, but as I read through the meeting minutes, I realized that I wasn't especially clear on one issue. Regarding our yearly visit to wastewater fees, I think this is either the second or third time that we've kind of fallen off track with that. And it can get confusing when you don't know what deadlines there were. And I had suggested that we do it when the budget, when we go ahead and present the budget. As I always like to put it, if all of us fall off the face of the earth, someone could walk right in and know exactly what to do. What I neglected to point out is that we do have an ordinance that relates to now it doesn't say you have to raise them every year, but it does. There's some ordinance, I want to say it's early 2000s, that states that there's supposed to be a presentation every year to both boards. In the past, we used to do the Board of Public Works, and then they would do it to the Board of Aldermen. And I don't know the ordinance number, but I'm wondering if it might make some sense to revisit that ordinance and maybe put right in there that the wastewater fee presentation will be at the same time the budget presentation is, because that way it kind of doesn't get lost in the weeds.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. Now, we are going to do that presentation corresponding with the budget this time, right, Director Photo?
We're planning to do it in July, Mayor, to correspond with the fiscal year. So we were planning to do it every July is what we have on the calendar. And that will give us enough time to be able to get our rate model that we talked about in place, because we just did a presentation very recently. So July would be better. I'd rather not present it at the same time we present our budget, just because that's an awful lot of information. And I think that it would be a lot to absorb. I think it's better that we keep it somewhat separate. But we do plan on giving a presentation in July. And that's what we had discussed with the Board of Aldermen when we went over everything with them.
Commissioner Pappas, how does that sound?
Well, as I said, I have absolutely no doubt that it won't be forgotten with the folks we have in place now. But I think to really harden up that ordinance, I know, you know, this obviously that isn't under the ordinances aren't under our purview. But as I said, I think this is the third time that this has happened, and I'm just trying to come up with a way, if we have it in an ordinance, that it's really quite well known. And I don't know if you want to put the onus on either on whoever is in charge of financial services or the mayor. But I just, you know, as I said, I just want to clear up confusion when we have new administrations, you know, coming in or people leaving. There's a lot to the jobs that we have in the city government and in our and in this division. So that's just a suggestion that you know might take a look at it, because obviously this, you know, our board, that's not their purview, but just to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's also that we can, if we look at it yearly, I think when people get used to little bits of, you know, raising the prices instead of being, you know, having to put in 30% ones, that's just my suggestion.
Well, definitely we should begin doing this on an annual basis. And so I guess the plan now is to submit at the beginning of the to do the presentation at the beginning of the next fiscal year in July.
Perfect. And if I may, I had another issue. I had expressed interest in us just taking a look at inventory, our vehicle inventory. We haven't looked at that in a bit. And I will say that Commissioner Ackerman had expressed concern over the amount of trucks that were at the landfill. And I guess it was my understanding, I figured that we had like maybe, you know, one automated, maybe we had an automated truck in case one of our trucks weren't working, and then maybe a couple of pickups, so, you know, older pickups that we can, you know, move stuff in the landfill. And I didn't have a problem with that. And someone from the public who listened to the meeting last month send me a bunch of pictures, and I will go ahead and I will email them to our BPW web email address so that folks can take a look at them. Honestly, I was really surprised at the number of vehicles we had, big expensive vehicles, and you know, I saw some of the orange plow trucks. I saw several. I saw several automated trash trucks, and you know, when we do revisit how many trucks we have and that sort of thing, I would obviously, I can't dictate anything, but I would respectfully request we have it at a special meeting so we could go in detail. But I think it might be interesting if we visit that, to take an inventory of all the vehicles at the landfill, vehicle types, vehicle numbers, and which vehicles have replaced them. And maybe perhaps to let us know if these vehicles have been inspected and registered. It's interesting we all have different purposes we serve on this board, and we answer to different bosses. And you know, I feel like our boss for the commissioners, our boss is the citizens of Nashua. And when I see these large vehicles, I know we don't get a lot of money at auction, but even if we got 15, 20 grand for some of these large vehicles, that's like two people's property bills. And you know, while I don't have a problem with keeping a couple of extra vehicles in case, you know, something breaks down, or keeping a couple of old pickup trucks to, you know, to move things around in the landfill, I think that we might have gone a little bit overboard. And I you know, I have a perfect example. A friend of mine has people, he plows for the state and he has people working for him. And I want to say like 15 years ago, he bought a Manchester fire truck. And he's able to do work on the truck himself. So he worked on the truck, he painted it. And I want to say as far as last year, he was still able to plow with it. So people, there are handy people that can really take these older vehicles and do work on them themselves. And, you know, even if we get 15 grand for them, as I said, that's like a couple of people's tax bills for a year. And, you know, given how tight the budget is, I really would like us to just take a look and justify that we do indeed need that many vehicles. And as I said, I will be going ahead and sending the pictures. They have the greatest pictures, but I'm the worst photographer there is. So if I were taking the pictures, they'd be a lot worse. But I will go ahead and send those pictures so that all the commissioners can take a look. Just a thought. Thank you so much.
Mayor, may I just respond to that for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So we did lose a number of vehicles, Commissioner Pappas, both plow trucks and solid waste trucks, and we do have quite a few. And really, what we're waiting for now, and the fleet manager could speak to this in more detail, but metal has been very, very low, so we're waiting for the prices to come up before they're not any trucks that can be sold. They're trucks that need to actually go to the scrap yard. So he's been watching metal prices and waiting for them to come up a bit before we do that. So that's why there are a number of vehicles right now that are at the landfill. That's why they're there.
So we don't use any. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, correct.
Or any of the, so we don't use any of those vehicles as extras.
Oh, certainly we do. We have trucks that we're using, but there are, so I don't know which ones you're referring to, but yes, there's definitely quite a large number of them that we're using. We do have backups, but there are also a number of trucks that are ready to go to scrap metal yard. So,
okay.
I don't, there's both, so.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I think an inventory would be good, because I will tell you, when we first started when we first started with this new plan, we really had a commitment that if something, we were going to sell something at auction. If it wasn't good enough to use every day, we were getting rid of it. And you know, so I think if we can get a list of the vehicles, and if any of them have been replaced, and we should probably put them up for auction. I understand that our solid waste trucks do take a while for the new ones to come in, and I understand why you might keep, you know, one or two of those off in the balance, but I think the optics aren't good, and I think that you know, people are kind of getting frustrated that we've been keeping those vehicles there for that amount of time. So that's just an observation. As I said, I'll go ahead and email the pictures to folks just so we know. And you know, and I do understand that the metal is up and down, but I think that it's going to be a tough budget year, and I think the optics aren't great. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
All right, any other commissioners have comments? If not, we will go to personnel. Item A, Commissioner Shoneman.
Move to accept the retirement of Kevin Holbrook, truck driver, effective February 19, 2021.
Any comments? Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
please accept my apologies for having to get to an appointment for 7 o'clock.
We accept your apologies, and we will see you next meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right, we now have item B, which is another resignation. Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, move to accept the resignation of Robert Catanzano, collection equipment operator, effective February 26, 2021.
Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes,
Commissioner Tease. Sorry.
he's not here.
I didn't hear her respond.
Commissioner,
I didn't hear you. Yes, I respond. Yes, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear you.
I didn't either. So there was a break in the line or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so Commissioner Pappas has voted in the affirmative. Commissioner Shoneman is next, right?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes,
Commissioner Moriarty. And go ahead.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We next have item C, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve and unseal the non-public minutes for personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting of December 17, 2020.
Comments? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
yes,
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, we have an item for non-public. Is there a motion for the non-public?
yes. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3, Roman numeral 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Could you call the roll, please?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Motion passes. We will now go into non-public session.
And Mayor, we do have a non-public as well.
We have a what?
We have another non-public.
Oh, we're gonna go into another one?
Yes.
Well, okay, so well, that's true. I'd forgotten about that one. So is there a motion to return to non-public session for a different purpose?
is the purpose for personnel hiring or for reputation?
Well, maybe we shouldn't have left non-public.
Um,
The purpose on this one
Yeah.
is to discuss personnel issues. Correct?
Diane, did you give Commissioner Moriarty the motion?
yes, I did.
And which one, which,
It was the reputation one.
Oh, the reputation, okay.
Fine, I do have that as well.
Could you go ahead with that, please?
Yes. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2C, to discuss matters, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
Diane, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
All right, we'll go into non-public session. Yes, you're right. Go ahead, please.
I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works non-public meeting of February 25th, 2021, until such time as majority of the board votes that the purpose of this confidentiality would no longer be served.
Any discussion? Could you call the roll, please, Diane?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now, do we have the motion to adjourn? Commissioner Moriarty?
yes, may I move for adjournment?
Could you call the roll, Diane?
Mayor Donches,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
And the meeting of the Board of Public Works is adjourned at 7:03 PM.